Hey everybody. How are y'all? Um, it's been a while since I have been on here and really engaged in any kind of conversation on the Flourishing Conversations podcast. And so I was sitting around tonight. I know it's really, really late, like almost 9 o'clock. And I just wanted to kind of like share my heart on some things that have been going on around here. So we are excited to say first and foremost that the flourishing conversations will be continuing. We're going to be kicking it back into gear to get more of our homeschool and micro school and people in our community to be involved, who are amazing presenters and creators. Secondly, we are also getting ready to have our fourth annual Flourish Family Homeschool Conference. That is a mouthful to say, but it's been 4 years. I cannot believe that we are going into our fourth year of the conference, and we're just here to equip parents as educators. We do believe that engaged parents want to understand all the things around their children's education, and there are parents who are just excited to be able to be the administrators of that education. So we are just super excited about that. Oops, I see my screen is doing something weird. Hey, I'm back. But one of the things that we have been really thinking about and considering is just how can we be of service to the community where we have so many homeschooling families who are excited to jump into this new journey. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the things that's been going on because I'm kind of excited about it. Recently, I put out a newsletter. And in that newsletter, I talked about how my homeschooling life has very much slowed down. So at the start of the school year in August, I was a homeschooling mom with all four of my children were living at home. And we've been very blessed to have one of our homeschoolers graduate from college, another, and two more who are now in college. One's a freshman at Georgia State, and the other one is a sophomore. I'm sorry, junior. Let me be correct. A junior at Morehouse. And so just to be able to see the homeschooling journey come to, a new crossroads. It's not an end in the sense of, well, it is an end for a little bit of an end for me because mom is there as much. But I still have my youngest daughter to homeschool. But in the last couple of months of transitioning from being a super duper active homeschool co-op leader with a large community to be a part of, which I still am a part of that community, but just not the active everyday operational administrative things that happen there necessarily, and to just move toward having kids who are just out of the house. This is different, but it's welcome. Often I would tell my kids things like, hey, be open to whatever the journey of life takes you, take hold of all opportunities. We talk to them about just trying new things. And so these last couple of months of trying new things have included some really cool things for me, which really started before these last few months. It really started over the pandemic. And so over the pandemic, just had an opportunity for organizations to reach out and say, hey, would you like to speak more about your choice to homeschool, about Black homeschooling, and the space in which we are just creating an amazing and nurturing space for our students to live in, for our children to live in? Because at the end of the day, this homeschooling journey has mostly pretty much been about just raising a family, yes, the education is centric and it starts at home, but it's really about us raising a family. And I have said time and time again that the most joyful part of this journey is that my children are friends. Um, and I have been so appreciative of that. And thank God for the to see that grow, for them to have a friendship and to like each other. I've often said siblings are just super duper important in your life. Mine are, spouses and children are too, but siblings are some of the few people in your life that get to see you when you're young and hopefully when you're old. So that has been just an amazing experience to see my family grow deeper in their relationship with one another. But over the last couple of months, I've had some amazing opportunities. Been able to actually do public speaking and some policy advocacy work, which I never thought that I would get into. I always thought that what I did at home was, which it still is, the most important thing, but to be in a space where people are wanting to add your voice to the other spaces that are important when it comes to policy or just storytelling. Because much of this that I do is storytelling. And I've had the opportunity to do some traveling and to actually get to do my first keynote speech. I got a chance to speak in Washington, D.C. to about 300 400 attendees, and that was super duper nerve wracking um, to be one of the first speakers out the gate of an event. I was one of really four keynotes all together. We were telling our stories in succession, but I was the first one to speak. But after that event, I started to think about how I am just needing to embrace a new part of my life. And that is that, hey, everything is not going to be the focus of my kids, but I do want to have my children see me do some fun things that go past me, that are me chasing some dreams, going after things that I would like to see happen in my life. And so, one of the things that's really, really cool that got to happen is, I'm going to say it. It was this. So I had the opportunity to speak at the Harvard University John F. Kennedy School of Government. It was a program on educational policy and governance, and I got a chance to speak at the Emerging School Conference. I got my own little folder and my bio and everything in the participants directory. So I was super excited, but I do want to talk about how there's something that was full circle here. So I've had a couple of opportunities where people have actually offered for me to do some things. And my first instinct has been to turn it down because I don't know if it's because I maybe possibly, yeah, my therapist will say I am dealing with imposter syndrome at time of I am afraid to do something where I'm not totally in control. And to be honest with you, homeschooling at home, I do have a lot of control, but you start to go out here and share parts of your life. You are opening yourself up to scrutiny, to criticism, to people putting their thoughts and interpretations on your actions or the things that you've done for your family and for your children. I've had people to pull me off to the side and say, why do you want to destroy public school? Why are you not supporting the Black community and our public school systems? And I've always said to them, I've never, I've never been against public school. As a matter of fact, I have a lot of respect for public school teachers because after teaching my own children, and I think anybody, once you have taught your own children, you will have a lot of respect for public school teachers too, because your children are not angels. And by no stretch of the imagination should we ever think that our kids probably aren't doing some things around when they're at school that they need a little bit of extra. Hey, let's talk about that. But I am definitely in support of public school teachers, and I always liken it to the historical fact that when it came to professionalism and Black women being able to have professional degrees and to be seen as leaders in the community, much of that stemmed from being a teacher or a nurse, being in those spaces of care for children and for patients in that healthcare, which all are in the sense of what I call societal care, that those were two places in which Black women were able to get credentialing as a teacher and a nurse. And so to that, they have my utmost respect, because so many of us would not be here if it were not for an amazing teacher, whether it's your parent or it is your public school teacher. I've had the amazing opportunity to have some of the best, I feel like, really cool teachers in elementary, middle, and high school. And so for me, that was, I think, pivotal in my growth. And so I would say to anyone, like, this whole platform of saying, hey, homeschooling is an option, is not to go against the school system, is more of a evaluate what's best for you and everything. But I digress. Back to like the whole thing of me being able to go out here and do this conference at Harvard. So I was struggling, like really struggling with the fact that I had to go and do everything, because I honestly felt so underqualified. To be honest with you, in this room and in this space was going to be a lot of PhDs, people who've done research, people who have put together huge like advocacy platforms and have written policy. And all I kept thinking was like, oh my God, I only have this bachelor's degree that I literally just got in 2020, where over the pandemic, I was like, I really want to go back to school. And I went back and finished it. And so at that point, I'm just really feeling like inadequate and dealing with a lot of my thoughts that I had going through my head of, am I enough to be here? Am I smart enough to be here? Am I able to deliver this message effectively? Will I just embarrass myself, embarrass all the Black people who I know from Georgia? I had a lot of thoughts going through my head. And so when I was going through all those thoughts and thinking about things, I have to truly say I've been blessed with some really cool people in community. So one of the first things I wanted to do was actually, I had questions that I was thinking about wanting to answer in reference to the Black homeschooling community. And so I have to say, my homeschool co-op, I never can say enough about the care of Christian home educators now, under the leadership of Coretta Ponder. I can't say enough about all those folks over there and all her team and everybody who I had 33 Black homeschooling families that I was able to ask them one basic question: why do you homeschool? And this is my first soiree into qualitative research a little bit. And I was able to record people's answers on why they're homeschooling, which is super cool. And if you want to see that whole presentation that I did at Harvard, it is available on their website. I will add that to the show notes at the end. But I was super excited about being able to be in that space and talk about, like, I really say a group of folks that I'm like really cool with. But when I was preparing for this, it was amazing to have people constantly checking on me. My siblings, all my sisters were checking on me, and they were constantly like, are you good? We're praying for you. Do you need me to look at anything? One of my baby sisters, she does have a PhD. And so to be able to say, hey, can I bounce some things off of you, and really lean on her expertise in a lot of ways, to just get a lot from her. And I was just so excited about that. Also having all my siblings just praying for me and actually encourage me, with our once a week call to talk to each other and say, hey, is there anything you need us to pray about? Are you worried about anything? You got this, you got this, you got this. Even down to my mom, who literally called me 2 days before this whole event and gave me a little bit of a new presentation direction in my storytelling that linked it together, because I presented on Friday, and up until Wednesday before I got on the plane, I still did not feel settled with the storytelling that I was going to do in combination with presenting the research, or the surveys that I had done. I was also like so excited to have all the homeschool parents who were working with me and didn't mind telling me their stories, which was um, which was just beautiful, because I do feel like when people are telling you their stories about why they do what they do for their family, there has to be a level of trust. And so the fact that they trusted me with what they felt, with what they were thinking, and they felt like I would do honor to what they were telling me at that moment was very touching and everything. I remember I was sitting in the car, really going over my last little bit of getting together my last notes on Wednesday, because I was going to get on a flight at 7 a.m. on Thursday. And I got out of my car, and there were a group of moms sitting over by the gate at the homeschool co-op with their littles, and the younger children were in the gated area, and they were playing soccer. And so I walk over to about four of the moms, and they look at me and go, "Oh my God, have you gone to, how was Harvard?" And I said, "Oh no, I leave tomorrow to go to present on Friday." And I was telling them, a couple, they asked me, did I feel ready? I was kind of going through a little bit of my thing. And then one of them just said, "You know what? Stop. Just stop. Everybody get up. We're praying. We're praying. We're going to pray for her." And they just got my hands and gathered around me and started to pray. And they prayed that I would be prepared, that I would be calm, I would be, but most importantly, they prayed that I would know that I was prepared. Because here's the thing, looking back on it, hindsight is 2020. I was prepared. I've walked this journey. I've lived this journey. My husband and I have homeschooled our children. We homeschool kids to college. I've worked with several nonprofits to do this. The truth is, in the checklist sense, I'm ready. But did I feel ready to necessarily do certain things? No. And so this is what I really want to talk about a little bit, was how many of us have high self-confidence and low self-esteem. So confidence is that I have been able to have trust and belief that, due to, I feel like, a checklist of items that I've completed, that I am confident that I can do this. So I have done the research. I've read the books. I've consulted the experts. I've gone through the process. And so I was confident in the fact that I did what I needed to do to be prepared. Self-esteem is a little bit different. That I am enough and can be there just because I can be there. And I didn't feel that. I didn't feel like I was enough just to be there. And I began to think about that, because that's something that I really do want my children to have. I do want them to be prepared for whatever life throws at them, but I want them to truly know that they are good enough. They are enough in all these spaces that they're going into. And even in the midst of when things do not turn out the way you want them to, that you don't have to just lean on the fact of, oh, let me list all the things that went wrong, because sometimes things just go wrong and it just don't go your way. But it's also that you are good enough. You are beautifully and wonderfully made, and this opportunity is yours because God wants you to have it. That's it. Last time I checked, God had to check with no one to bless me. And so that has been something that's been hard for me to accept, that sometimes I'll be blessed just because God wants to give me something special, hand me an opportunity. He wants to love me and hold me and say, "Beloved, It's yours. Favor is yours. Even though you are messing up, bumbling, can barely get it together at times, um, it's yours. And so at the end of this journey, one of the things that I really did learn was that I am enough to go and do things that I am afraid of. If God puts the opportunity before me, go, be prepared, do my best. But the self-doubt has to stop. And I can't keep living that way. I think it puts a lid on the blessings and the things that God sends my way because I shut them down and say no to them and shut the door that He has left open. So that's my lesson I got from my couple of weeks, I'll say, like preparing for the Harvard conference, that it's always cool to have an introspective moment where you're like, I am enough. And so a really cool book that I've been reading lately, I've been reading a couple of books, but one of the books was I've just made my way back to Becoming by Michelle Obama. That is a really good book. I love her trajectory and her journey, and she's talking about, you know, going to a career and then desiring motherhood and then trying to find that balance between being yourself. I feel like when my journey is a little bit of a trajectory reversal. So in the beginning, I had my kids. My kids are now independent in many ways, but not completely. But I have more freedom now to be able to do the things that I may have put on the shelf, the dreams I put on the shelf, but I'm taking them off. We're dusting them off and we're going toward it. I mean, I am only 48 years young. And so 50 is right around the corner. So I'm excited about that. But I do feel like that in this space and where I am is, hey, let's let's touch some dreams, reach for some high shelves. Let's do the thing, have fun, and really believe that we deserve to be in the places that we've been blessed to have the opportunity to be in. I know the world feels a little crazy. There's always going to be a message that certain group of people don't deserve things and that they're taking something from someone else. And like I say all the time, God has never asked anyone for their permission to bless me. So I say thank you, and I will go ahead and do the next thing that He instructs me to do. All right, that's it for me. Y'all go and have a nice evening. Be blessed, and please join us this year at the Flourish Family Homeschool Conference. We'd like to say welcome to the Parent as Educator movement. So we are a parent and educator development training conference where we talk about things such as how to create your own NCAA transcript, how to take an IEP and turn it into a student education plan, homeschooling a 2E child, how, looking for the developmental milestones of your children for who may possibly be on the autism spectrum. There's so many things that you have to be aware of when you're homeschooling your children that are not just academic, but that are also emotional, psychological, even the physical well-being of sports. And so we try to, in this conference, talk about all of those things that you as a parent need to be equipped with the knowledge of to do your day-to-day homeschool duties for your child. And so we are super excited about this year, and prayerfully everything will just be amazing as it always have been. We've been able to just continue to be of service to our community. My name is Nicole P. Doyle, and I'm the community engagement concierge for Georgia Black Home Educators. So see you in January if that's what you would like to come see us. With that, in the show notes, we'll go ahead and put the links to our event that's coming up in January. You all have a blessed evening. Bye, and keep living that flourishing life.